All right, we are in the we're in the Fresh Mart in Whitney. There's kind of a little bit of everything in here, isn't there?
Mm. It's like your old-timey general store.
Yeah, but there's got some cottage nuts.
There's toilet plungers.
Toilet plungers. Here, so you can see it there.
Hardware, fishing lures.
Chips on one aisle, plungers on the other. So when you eat too many chips and you clog the toilet, come to the Fresh Mart. Welcome to James and Aaron. This is part 3 and the last leg of our super amazing 3-episode road trip where we left Huntsville, drove up the Highway 60 corridor through Algonquin Park. We drove to Whitney, which is right on the very tip of the East Gate, and now we're just headed back home.
So, funny story. A couple of years ago, my wife and I took the family out for a hike on Centennial Ridges Trail here in Algonquin Park. It was the fall; the leaves were turning. It was, a beautiful, beautiful day to go out and hike and see all the colors in Algonquin Park. So we went to the Centennial Ridges Trail. It was the first time we've ever been on the trail, probably the last time as well. You'll understand why when you hear the story. So we weren't familiar with it, and we set out. We knew it was a big loop, so we started hiking. And we're maybe an hour into it. We hit this beautiful sort of overlook where we could see for miles and miles over the wilderness. The colors were great, and we were like, yes, this was awesome. And then we continue on the way, and there were a couple of more spots like that along the way, and it's but at some point we started to get tired. And as it goes, we're hiking and you see the bend coming up in the trail, and you're like, all right, this has got to be it. We must be near the end of the trail. And we turn the bend, and no, there's lots more trail to go. And the next bend, same thing, and no, there's more to go. Then we saw a signpost, and it was like, you're at the halfway point. And we were like, are you kidding me? We were probably a couple hours into it now. We were hungry. We didn't pack well. We just thought we were going on a quick hike. And so we're tired, we're hungry. At some point, the sun starts going down, and I remember at one point, we stopped, the whole family, and we were so discouraged, and I could tell that we all just felt like giving up, which you can't exactly do in the middle of Algonquin Park. If you give up there, you're stranded in the wilderness overnight. It's not a good thing. So, if someone could have just dropped in that moment and rescued us, that would have been the greatest thing. I mean, I think that's what we wanted most. Unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen. So we got up and continued hiking. So we ended up exiting the trail back into the parking lot. It was after 7 in the evening, so we had spent 4 or more hours hiking through the wilderness, tired, discouraged. It was getting dark at that point. We were a little scared and concerned for our welfare. Long story short, if someone could have dropped in the middle of that and just come in with a helicopter and we could jump in and be saved from our own folly, man, that would have been such a good thing.
All right, so I've also got a good Algonquin story, and this was a story when I was younger, and my family and I were camping here, and my brother and I were in one tent, and my mom and dad, they were in another tent. And I think we were somewhere in the realm of Bat Lake here in Algonquin Park. And it was around midnight. We had all gone to bed. We were in the tent, and my brother and I had just fallen asleep when all of a sudden we could hear off in the distance. We had no idea what the heck it was until someone in the campground yelled, at the top of their lungs. We shot straight up in our tent, and we looked at each other like in this 80s comedy movie, and we yelled right at each other because we weren't sure. Meanwhile, all we could hear was, and it was getting closer and closer and closer until it was a baby moose basically that had gotten lost in the park, and it ran straight into my brother and I's tent while we were inside. Now, we didn't get injured. It basically sideswiped the tent, and it took down all of our guide wires on the tent, and our tent kind of flopped over to one side because it was kind of missing all the half side of things. If we ever needed rescuing from that is what we would have need rescued from, was this distraught baby moose that had no idea where its mother was. And thank goodness that we never met its mother, because I'm sure that its mother would not be very happy. There's this general idea that people are saved and needing to be rescued, but what exactly is it that people are being rescued and saved from? If it's that important of a church word, what the heck does it mean?
Christians use it all the time, and just sort of like everybody assumes that they know what it means. But for someone on the outside, or even someone who's new to their faith, it's a bit of a mystery. So there's this kind of a general understanding among many Christians that sort of when they use the word saved, they're talking about the afterlife, right? That through Jesus we are saved from the consequences of our sin, hell, and instead we're rescued or saved from that, and instead given a place in heaven. That's one sort of one meaning for the word saved, but it's certainly not the entirety or the fullness of what the Bible talks about when it talks about being saved.
We can look at it two ways. We're saved from circumstances and saved from consequences. I've always found it interesting that the Bible spends way more time on the life of Jesus than it does on the death of Jesus. We need to see how Jesus lives so that we can model that. And when we talk about being saved, we talk about in our last couple of episodes with striving for holiness and righteousness. Well, I think that they focus on Jesus's life more in the Bible because they want us to see that model and live that out. And so when we talk about being saved, part of that is being saved from a life of immorality. When we can see how Jesus lives that, we have that standard to go by.
So, in Aaron and my stories about our Algonquin Park experiences, they did a good job of highlighting the difference between being rescued from circumstances versus rescued from consequences, right? In Aaron's story, that was something entirely beyond his control. There's no one's at fault for a moose stampeding through the wilderness, right? It just happens. In my story, however, we were lost and tired and in danger because of sort of our poor planning, our poor decisions, right? It was a consequence of our actions. So in the same way, Jesus saves us from both circumstances and from consequences. In Jesus' day, the Jewish people were looking to this towards a savior that was prophesied in the Old Testament, right? They were expecting a savior to come and rescue them, right? To save them. And it was really a rescue from their circumstances that they were hoping for. If you think about it, in Jesus' day, the Jewish nation was under Roman occupation, right? They were under the oppression of Roman rulers. It wasn't a great time to be alive for them. They weren't allowed their natural freedoms and rights, and a lot of their things, just their way of living that they were used to. And so they were looking to this savior that was predicted in the Old Testament to come and rescue them from occupying forces. And so that from that perspective, they were looking to be saved from their circumstances.
What they didn't know and what they got in terms of a savior was something completely different. What they got was Jesus in the form of a poor carpenter who claimed a whole lot more than just to change their circumstances.
Yeah, so my experience with being saved definitely centers on being saved from my consequences, right? The consequences of my actions and behavior. I've shared it before, my story is one of addiction to alcohol and drugs, and that's what I was rescued from. That's what I was saved from, right? I started using drugs and alcohol in high school, and it became my way of coping with life, right? And my life was just full of darkness and despair, anxiety. There was just an absence of hope altogether, right? And I had I had a very intense personal experience with God when I was in a treatment center in North Bay for alcoholism and drug addiction. God spoke into my life and let himself be known to me and let me know that I was known to him, right? And that made all the difference. That was, that's when I was saved, right? Saved from the grip of addiction in my life.
So my story is completely different, and not that it's any better or anything worse than James's, it's just a different story. When I was growing up as a teenager, I didn't have any thing to do with drugs or alcohol. I tried it once and wasn't for me. So my story and what I look at, what I was saved from, was there's a cool bird, I don't know if you can see it. Fly right out the window there. Algonquin Park, you never know what you're gonna see. As a kid, I had no idea what I was doing with my life. I was just some kid living his life with his family. I didn't know what I was on this earth for. I didn't know what I was gonna do as a job. I didn't know what I was gonna do for a family, like when I got older, for a family. And so when I look at what I was saved from, was a life of purposelessness. And I think when you look at that, there's a lot of people that are searching for a way out of the darkness, like what James was talking about, into this life of joy and hope and purpose. And when we talk about saved, there's two sides to the coin. There's two sides to what Jesus saves us from. Like James's story and my story. Consequence and circumstance. That is what Jesus and what we talk about is saved from our life circumstances, and as we move into afterlife, eternity, Jesus has something to do with both of those things. So those are our 3 episodes where we touched on righteousness, holiness, and saved. And as you can see, you can tie those all in. And that Jesus really just wants to take our lives and make them as full as possible. Some of these words are mega churchy, but there is great meaning behind those words. And so however you want to frame these words, there's some really cool meaning behind them. So I hope that you've enjoyed coming on our little 3-episode road trip. We will be back very soon with some new episodes and some new stuff. So thanks for coming with us. And if you want us to go on another road trip, maybe let us know where a cool place would be, and we may just end up in your neck of the woods checking out some of the super cool places that has to be with where you live. So if there's something cool, let us know. Until next time, I'm Aaron.
I'm James.
Bye-bye.
There's a Tesla.